Radiant team banned.
Greetings and salutations, Dota fans! Third time's the charm. Looks like we are actually going to have some bans moving out, so I'm going to try and do my introduction one more time. If you're watching this VOD on YouTube, know that a few hundred, at the very least a few hundred viewers at least, have to hear this for the third time, because I am going to run through with a little bit of the pre-game just to set the scene for you, starting with MUFC. They entered play today, a team in flux, and looking for an identity, as that departure of Ohio and Net to Orange took place in late January, and since then they're just looking to get their legs back underneath them. Much of that new identity is going to be based around the prolific player Winter, MUFC's new captain, who joined the team along with FC and Too Good just about a week ago. Now, since that time, they've already shown some promise, though they're still obviously experiencing some growing pains. They're 6-3 in their last 9 appearances, but are in the middle of a three-series skid, I should say, including 2 losses to Orange and a 2-1 loss to LGD International in the GEST Consolation Final, and that was just a couple of days ago. Thus far, MUFC is yet to officially lock in the remaining 2 full-time roster spots, so they'll be looking to impress not just the viewers and their sponsors, but both of the stand-in players who are going to be WW and for MUFC, going to be looking to solidify their bid to be the 2 newest members of that team. Now, first, VN, also known as CyberPink, they come into today kind of in contrast. They don't have a lot of drama around them, but they've got a pretty solid history of Dota over the last week or 2 at the very least. They've arrived here in Phase 2 by fighting their way through Phase 1, defeating Legion Dreams, G-1, and Neolithian Thailand on the way. They'll be looking to keep that streak alive in their bid to make it on into the full field. The winner of today's match will advance to meet the winner of Rattlesnake versus Gizmo, and that's coming up about 4 hours from now, so make sure you stay tuned for all of that fun action. So how about we talk about the draft and what's going on here. Bad Rider Wisp taken out by MUFC. Nyx and Magnus banned out by CyberPink, and already we can see CyberPink just getting a very solid lineup, and a very hard lineup to predict at that, I might add. Both Lone Druid and Weaver could function out of a tri-lane if you want to give them that tri-lane security, or they could both long lane, and to tell you the truth, they could both potentially mid. It's not something that's seen extremely commonly, at least not in the North American and European scene, which those who know me know that that's usually where I concentrate most of my casting efforts. So this is going to be a learning experience for me, and it's something that I get to do for the first time since way back in the Monthly Madness Asia days and leading up to the International too. It's been a long time since I've had a chance to cast some Asian Dota, so looking forward to seeing some things and learning some things. Hopefully you guys can learn as well as me. So, MUFC, and we've got 2 disconnected from CyberPink. I really hope they're coming back, but since the draft is continuing, hopefully they're just trying to line out whatever connection issues they might happen to have. But back to MUFC's lineup, about as stable as it's going to get, really. I really like already the Shadow Demon and the Lina picks. It's really hard seeing that front 3 to anticipate what they're going to do. Lifestealer, it's so hard to call. I mean, Lifestealer is one of those heroes that, depending on the style of a team, is usually going to wind up in an offensive or a defensive position just about 100% of the time. And what I mean by that is that if a team likes to run a Lifestealer offensively, they're not just going to do it once in a while, especially when he's got 2 hardcore supports like Lina and Shadow Demon. And setting up the Light Strike array following the disruption out of Shadow Demon, not to mention open wounds, making it impossible during the early laning phase to try and retreat if you get out of position even a little bit. That is just so much offensive potential, but you can also fall back and tri-lane that and instead have Shadow Demon and Lina applying pressure elsewhere on the map. You'll run those 2 in the tri-lane, let the tri-lane take shape on the defensive side, but there are 2 of the better roaming gankers that you're going to see in the early stages of any game. So MUFC already has a lot of options open to them, just like CyberPink does. Taking a look at the ban phase as it continues to develop, it looks like MUFC just wants to rob CyberPink of any high-tier supports. Leshrac, Keeper of the Light, and I want to say already, something that I don't see very often is a Keeper surviving all the way into the second ban phase in North American European Dota. You just don't see that. Keeper is almost always picked in the first 6, if not banned. In fact, bans being just a little bit more typical even than the pick anymore. TA Brewmaster Shadow Fiend banned out by CyberPink. Obviously, they're worried about mid. Want to make sure that MUFC has some limited options there, and especially the mid-game potential that comes out of all 3 of those heroes. I mean, Shadow Fiend can hang and bang well into the late phases of absolutely any game just by virtue of how the hero works. But when he really comes into his own is if he has an open laning phase, if he has the chance to free farm himself, be it in a tri-lane or be it out of mid, get some early levels, get a lot of farm, and get those stacks. that he needs, or stacks of souls that he needs on Necromastery. He just is one of those heroes that can just roll up if you leave him alone for too long. If you leave him alone for 20, 25 minutes, he'll show up at 30 and 1v5 just about if he has a BKB. He's just going to hit so hard. So CyberPink taking him out, as well as Brewmaster and TA, two more mid heroes that just have an immense amount of mid-game aggression. Darkseer banned down in the second phase as well. And, I mean, again, this is new to me. Those are two heroes that I don't think in the last 45 days, if not 2 months or more, I've seen actually make it to the second ban phase. And they are not going to be joining us this time around, though. So both teams thinking it over, talking it over. CyberPink, when I look at their lineup, I mean, it just screams that they want to be solid in the mid game. Weaver is a hero that you can run just about anywhere. He does really well with tri-lane farm. Usually you want to build him defensively, get up at Lincoln Sphere before going for some kind of damage. And what Weaver excels at is split pushing. I mean, he just is so hard to deal with because he's so damn hard to catch unless you just absolutely pick someone in particular to deal with him. CyberPink's going to go ahead and pick up the Undying, and I think that jives with what I was saying. They just want to stay stable and look to have a very solid mid game. Undying's a hero that gives you so much stability, it's almost impossible to push into a well-leveled Undying with a few points in the Tombstone. The hero is extremely strong in the laning phase, especially when paired with a hero like a Rubik, who is really hard to engage into anyway. And Rubik's one of those weird kind of supports that for the most part is known as a defensive support. But if you decide to use him to apply pressure, Telekinesis is unbelievably strong at punishing anyone who steps even a foot or two out of position. So with the Weaver and the Lone Druid, I don't think they're going to be looking to do anything but secure their farm. The Undying, the Rubik, I'm going to imagine just simply going to be a part of the defensive tri-lane. Weaver is what we're seeing so far, and it's hard to call until we see the fifth. Again, Lone Druid, Weaver, they both can mid, and they both can be fairly effective in mid, and they can both long lane as well. So CyberPink with plenty of options available to them. MUFC still waiting to show us their fourth pick, and that fourth pick is really going to be what determines, or at least what shows us, where they're likely to run that early tri-lane. And the kill potential, again, out of Shadow Demon and Lina and Lifestealer, it's another one of those lineups that if you are out of position even a little bit, you're just not going to make it back. There's no way. A Disruption sets up a perfect Light Strike array absolutely every single time, and then you just pursue. Lifestealer saves open wounds until he feels like you're getting a little too close to your tower. And it makes it very easy to dive as well. And that's something that, you know, in this situation, focusing on the offensive capabilities of Shadow Demon, but it's also extremely defensive in how he can use the Disruption to bail Lina himself or the Lifestealer out. So MUFC, if they do decide the offensive, run it offensively, and the Queen of Pain doesn't really tell us anything. They needed a mid, and CyberPink opting to ban out the TA, the Brew, and the Shadow Fiend. We knew that mid was going to be a choice from MUFC, but you know, Queen of Pain is not a sit back and take your time kind of a mid. So I think that kind of jives with what I was talking about, the fact that we are very likely to see some sort of an offensive tri-lane. And that Queen of Pain, if they do that, is going to be very active. So Puck's going to be picked up by CyberPink. They now have 3 heroes that can run mid or run long lane very effectively. And, you know, it's almost impossible to call. You know, there's really no offensive potential that I see immediately. I mean, yes, Rubik and Undying could work quite well in an offensive tri-lane, but with a Lone Druid, he needs his farm. He's an extremely strong hero, but not necessarily in the laning phase in situations that are out of one-on-one. I mean, one-on-one, he's a monster. Weaver's kind of the same way. Shikuchi does a lot of damage. You can spam it because of the relatively low mana cost. Gives you a lot of escapability. But if I had to guess, what we're likely to see is going to be a Puck mid, Weaver farming out of the defensive tri-lane, and then Lone Druid, most likely setting up shop in the long lane. We'll wait to see if that's going to be correct, though. Tinker going to be the pickup now out of MUFC. And yeah, I mean, I think that kind of sets it in stone. What they're going to end up doing here is running the offensive tri-lane with Shadow Demon, Lifestealer, and Lina. And from there, they'll be looking to most likely run the Queen of Pain mid, and the Tinker will be going to solo the safe lane. And yeah, it looks like that's what we're going to see. We'll wait for the lanes to take shape, but if you are just tuning in, welcome into my debut broadcast here at the G-1 Champions League. This is Phase 2 of the Asian qualifier, and we're here in Group A, our very first game of our very first match, as MUFC takes on First Viet, also known as CyberPink. Let's see who's going to be handling who as both teams head out. They're not heading towards the same piece of real estate, so shouldn't have any early first blood potential. We're going to have Misa playing on our Weaver. Puck going to be handled by Secret. Rubik will be played by Typhood. I like Typhood a lot. Boss will be handling our Lone Druid, and the Undying is going to be played by Ares. On the other side of the river, we're going to have Winter, the captain, and probably the most famed player on MUFC. He's going to be handling our Shadow Demon. Lena is going to be played by the stand-in WW, and again, that kind of comes back to what I was talking about. Not only is this a chance for MUFC to you know, and again, they are in kind of this period of flux. They really are trying to rebuild that name after having so many departures. Ohio and Ned both taking off. And heading to Orange just a couple of weeks ago, or excuse me, just back in January, I should say, not a couple of weeks ago. It's been almost 2 months now. But aside from MUFC as a squad looking to impress, two players going to be looking to make a bid to get themselves as full-time members. A little bit of early harassment. Winter going to be knocked down. Oh, he's going to be telekinesed and brought back. He's got help there, though, as plus WW. Lena and Lifesteal are enough to ward that away. A little free damage done. But they are going to be defensively tri-laning this. And to be honest, this is surprising to me. Seeing the Queen of Pain go the long lane, she's not going to do horrible here, but this is just a pretty solid anticipation. And, you know, I guess maybe they saw something I didn't. Whenever you see the Weaver, the Undying, I mean, there's plenty enough potential for damage and harassment. Weaver's going to do what he does, and it's going to be very hard for this offensive tri-lane, or excuse me, defensive tri-lane of MUFC to really engage into a tri-lane like this. But for the most part, Lifestealers should be able to get a decent amount of farm, so it's going to be basically a break-even here. But this is just prioritizing, trying to get a good matchup up against the Lone Druid. Queen of Pain should do quite well there. She'll take a little bit of harassment, but of course she's going to be able to deal it out as well as anyone else. So this tri-lane is always going to be right where the action is. But, again, back to CyberPink. They can make this work for them, no doubt about it. Both sides have the potential to pick someone off, but in terms of just pure disables, pure defensive and offensive capabilities, you got to give it to MUFC just because of the way Shadow Demon synergizes with Lena in particular, and Lifestealer's ability to punish you if you overcommit at all. Open wounds early on is just so hard to deal with. This mid matchup, Puck versus Tinker, going to be just kind of a back and forth, and that's what we're already seeing. Both players going 1-for-1. Now we're going to have a Light Strike array that catches two. That's going to force both of them back away from that pull camp they were trying to contest. I really don't want to flash the camera away from this lane too much just because I anticipate this is where the majority of the early game action is going to be. And Typhoon's going to have to play exceptionally well here. They're going to be relying on him a lot. And yeah, here comes Lena. Just going to go ahead and be telekinesed. They're going to come on out. No way to catch the Rubik. So it's the Undying and the Rubik are going to be the targets, obviously, they want to engage into. Weaver, you just cannot really reliably engage that hero because of Shikuchi. And even if he spams it just to get last hits, just to do harassment damage to MUFC, he's still going to have plenty of mana. It's not going to be a problem. I mean, the mana cost on it is so absurdly low, even at level 1. And speaking of level 1, he still is level 1 sitting at just about to hit level 2. And this is kind of what I anticipated. I mean, we can already see MUFC, when you run an offensive tri-lane like this, you usually want to do it with one very well-defined goal, which is going to be keep a hero off a farm, keep them down in levels. If you get kills, great, but, you know, kills are just a means to an end. They're not necessarily an end in themselves. And we can see the Lifestealer is not farming the best in history. He's at about half of what Weaver is, but the level difference is going to begin to show itself very soon. He's already halfway to level 4. Weaver just past level 2 now. Rubik sitting at level 2 as well, and the Undying at level 2. Compare that to the level 2 of Lena, who does a little bit of harassment there with Light Strike Array, as well as Shadow Demon, who's at level 2. So, I mean, it's not the biggest gap in the world, but the Lifestealer is getting his levels, and it is going to make it much more difficult for CyberPink to keep the pressure up in this lane just because of how quickly they're going to be able to nuke down a support if they decide to engage. Here in the mid matchup, yeah, I mean, it's still basically a break-even affair. We can see 12 last hits on both sides. The levels are very similar as well. Looks like the Tinker's a little bit ahead, but not certainly by much. And down here in bottom, this is going quite well for the Queen of Pain. As anticipated, she's got about 12 last hits compared to the 9 of the Lone Druid right now. So, and this is really good for MUFC just because of what a liability she's going to be. She's getting all the farm she really wants. I mean, very little a Lone Druid can do to harass a Queen of Pain out without taking a lot of harassment himself. And taking a look at the skill build, yeah, he's actually got 2 points in the dagger. We'll see how many more he wants to put into that. I don't think he's going to max it or anything right off, just because he doesn't really need to. 2 points in the dagger more than enough to deal with the lone druid, and for the purposes they have. And now they're going to go ahead and spot one. There's the disruption. Here we go. Weaver's going to Shikuchi in, follow up Light Striker Ray. Here comes Lifestealer engaging into Ares. Ares will be our first blood. He drops down. Tombstone was dropped. And Lina might ooh, no. They barely get it. Weaver not willing to give up the ghost. Should get a return kill here. And will. So that's good for them at the very least. But first blood does go the way of MUFC. And again, that's kind of what I was worried about. And in the meantime, there's actually a kill in mid. Puck is tracked down by MUFC. And that's really surprising. Now up at top, we're going to have Lifestealer engaged upon it. MUFC quick to feed 2 back. He should be caught here and will. And he was just way too far forward. Had to expect that the supports were coming back to lane really, really quickly. So 2-2 as we roll upon 5 minutes. Fairly active early game. And we'll see if they want to keep these lanes together. Nope, we already have one rotation. Lina making her way down here. And we'll see if this is going to be just a concentrated gank attempt or if this is going to be something where she shows her presence. She may actually just make a move to mid as well. She has that option available to her. The lone druid farming okay. He's got 14 last hits right now. And, yeah, going to go ahead and show his face. And, yeah, they're going to go for it. I'm really surprised they were able to make it work that easily. Very well aimed out of WW. And it's deceptively hard to hit a Light Striker Ray on a moving target moving away from you. And it's a little bit easier if you're really, really close whenever you first show your face. But Lina was about at the max range there. So really well shot. And now in mid, the action continues. Tinker going to be telekinesis, going to use March of the Machines. Orb goes the wrong way. And yeah, he's going to try to TP away. This is just... Oh, wow! He actually just turns and gets a kill. Are you kidding me? What a play from AMG. Started the TP away, noticed that Puck was really low from standing inside of the March of the Machines, used the rockets, and got himself a kill in a situation where, for all intents and purposes, he was dead to rights. So MUFC now doubling up their opponents, and we can already see CyberPink playing much more defensive. They're trying to move around the map and make use of their lineup's offensive potential as it is. 6 kills on the board at 6 minutes in. But the top 2 farmers belonging to MUFC, Weaver's actually keeping up. But the thing is, Weaver had an advantage on the Lifestealer. After that first blood, Lifestealer has been able to close the gap quite well, and the pull camp a big part of that. So I really want to watch what item he wants to pick up first. He's already added tier 1 boots and a wand to his inventory, so no surprise there. But is he going to go with an armlet sort of a build? You know, what approach is he going to take? Or is he going to go with a drums S and Y kind of an approach, which we've seen gaining a lot of popularity throughout the Asian scene? So we're going to have a disruption, follow-up Light Striker Ray. The Soul Catcher was down. Tombstone's down as well. And they are going to be able to get the Rubik, but Lina's going to end up being traded for it. Winner being pursued out now. And Lifestealer can't really do much to bail his buddy out. They managed to get 2 kills in exchange for 1. So a win there for CyberPink. A lot of action already taking place. Back to the Queen of Pain. She's our top farmer. And continuing to apply pressure, as much pressure as he can to that Lone Druid. Lone Druid, though, I mean, he's okay. He's not great. And in most one-on-one situations, a Lone Druid should not necessarily have free farm, but should be pretty near the top. He's sitting at 25, which isn't crazy off the pace. I mean, he's only a handful away. And Lifestealer uses the Infest to get himself back into fighting shape here at top. But a lot of movement taking place out of both of these squads. We'll take our first look at the gold graph, see where they are. Pretty close in terms of gold, 750 going the way of MUFC. No surprise given that they do have a kill lead. 2,000 experience also going their way. Certainly not insurmountable on either side. But this is going to be one of those games, given how aggressively both teams are playing, where this is one of those games that could all of a sudden get out of control one way or the other. Secret is going to be spotted here, and here we go. There's a disruption. Soul Catcher's down. Light Striker Ray is actually dodged. He's going to be able to orb to the low ground, so he makes it away. He's going to find himself a haste room. Lone Druid was there, but not a lot they could do, and that's really just not the targets you want to try to find most of the time. And Secret shows back up. Now another Light Striker Ray catches Boss. And good tether. Excuse me, coil. WW going to be the prize for that. And CyberPink looking to turn this around once again. Secret's on the low ground. Needs to be careful. Undying's there to try and pursue this. Here comes Secret. He's, barely going to dodge it. Should end up cleaned up and will. TP reaction on the way. That's going to be Tinker. And Lone Druid's very low here. He is going to be able to salve himself back up. So 5-6. as the dust settles. This is left, by the way, Weaver and Lifestealer to go one-on-one. Now, this is not a situation the Lifestealer wants to be in. He's doing okay so far as staying on pace with Farm. He's at 32-33 now to the 34 of Weaver. But this is not a situation they necessarily want to let stay. I mean, Lifestealer just can't do anything at all to a Weaver one-on-one. It just is not going to work for them whatsoever. But anyway, we got 11 kills on the board. We're 9 minutes in, and if this pace keeps up, look for an exciting game of Dota so far. Haven't really had a lot of time to talk about items. Again, the Lifestealer has gone for phase boots, so usually when you see phase boots come out like this on a Lifestealer, not to say it always happens, but more and more recently, I've been seeing much more of an, I would say, comparatively unorthodox build. Being based on that, hang on, we've got 3 rotating down the bottom. They want to try and do something to this Lone Druid, and they're going to go ahead and engage. He's going to go ahead and morph true form, but they should have enough firepower to bring him down. Sonic Wave's only going to catch one. That catches Ares. There's a root that catches the Tinker. Lone Druid will be cleaned up in the meantime, and so will the Undying. TP reaction came. They will be able to get a return kill on the Tinker. Weaver uses his ult. He will not be able to get one more. Blink just off of cooldown. And Puck actually manages to get a kill on Lena in the meantime. So 2 for 2 the trade, and an absolute slugfest. Both teams swinging from the shoelaces so far. 15 kills in a 10-minute game. Gotta love this style of Dota. One-on-one down here in bottom. Weaver is going to be forced out again. His ult should be off cooldown soon enough, but not quite early enough to erase that damage. Back to the Lifestealer. He has opted to go phase. Now, one variation of this is just to go with a typical armlet, maybe up to a Deso if that's really where you want to be with it, just really doing a lot of damage. It gives you the option of taking a lot of quick Roshans. Hang on, there's a disruption, and Secret might be in trouble. He's going to be able to dodge the rockets using the orb. He will be able to get under his tower. He is going to be dove. Laser shot, but not enough damage on it to get the kill. And here comes Rubik. Manages to add another kill. WW going to be telekinesed. He's going to have to pull back. The orb gonna pursue him out, and Secret's real low on health. He dodges a tower shot, but caught by the Light Striker Ray. Dragon Slave gets the kill. And Lena will end up dying, but not before getting a kill of her own. 9-9. Queen of Pain now trying to stabilize this middle lane just a little bit. And talked about it during the draft. The potential for movement out of both teams quite high. And both teams showing us that potential, no doubt about it. The gold still hovering at about 1,000, 2,000 in favor of MUFC, but both teams really keeping this matchup close. Back to the Lifestealer. He has picked up his Helm of Iron Will, so he will be going armlet. Okay, that's probably the more typical build. I've seen some very, I won't call them odd, but it's a nice variation where you'll go phase, drums, up to an S and Y on Lifestealer. This time though, getting the armlet, just going to be looking for that extra bit of survivability in the mid-game. Possibly looking to follow it up with, oh, hang on, Coil. Dropped on Queen of Pain. She is going to blink under her own tower. Now the Light Striker Ray connects to the Laguna Blade. No, not enough. Queen of Pain unable to get the extra damage done. Tinker will, though. Tinker fresh from spawn, using those boots of travel. Cleans up what Lena started. And WW is really playing well. Those Light Striker Rays, again, when you see them connect, it looks so easy. But that delay is so much more whenever you're in the heat of the moment, and he has really been spot on. Following it up with the Laguna Blade that time, and AMG being there just in time to get the return kill. Down here at bottom, though, Lone Druid has been left alone for a while. He's sitting about middle of the pack in terms of last hits, so he's beginning to make up some ground. We'll see what direction he wants to go with his item build. But MUFC with a quick infusion of gold coming from the death of that Tier 1 there in mid. So the boots of travel now complete on Tinker. Scythe of Ice, one would think, would be his next major item choice. I mean, obviously a lot of items you can go with on a Tinker. But Scythe of Ice against the team that CyberPink has, particularly the Weaver. I mean, that Weaver has a ring of health up. He also has his cloak and a ring of Aqualade. But it's not going to be long before that Weaver begins to hit relatively hard. He's going to be a real liability. He already is a liability when he does show up for these small skirmish engagements. And once 5-on-5 Dota begins, it's so hard to track a Weaver down, and even when you find him, it's hard to kill him. And right there is why Shikuchi just makes it so just about anything is going to be escapable. And they're going to get the deny on this tower. There you go. But a Scythe of Ice on a Tinker would certainly help mitigate that a little bit. Give them a way to shut that down. And here comes Secret. He's going to go and throw the coil, catches Tinker. And the re-engagement MUFC kind of in an awkward position here. We're going to see Tinker cleaned up. Lena was there, but just got there a little bit late. And now, CyberPink in pretty good position. And I'll tell you what I love about this is not only are they in a good position to try and apply pressure to either the Tier 1 mid or the Tier 2 top, but they are freeing up the map for this guy right here. Freeing it up for Boss in a big, big way. He's actually got a Mithril Hammer in his inventory, so we'll see what he wants to do with that. That's an interesting, fairly interesting build. Don't know that I've ever seen a Mithril Hammer sitting in the inventory of a Lone Druid, actually. But it is going to be on the way out to him now. Yeah, well, no, excuse me, Maelstrom. That makes sense. I don't know why my brain just completely shorted out that Mithril Hammer builds into a Maelstrom. I think it's usually just because you usually see Maelstrom bot in one big shot. So that makes a lot more sense. 10-10. We have 20 kills on the board, 15 minutes into this game. And the Maelstrom already done. So the pushing potential on Lone Druid, going to be through the roof. And I really prefer this build every time I see it. Getting the Maelstrom out, especially if you can get it out early. Sub 15 minutes, not too shabby at all. Worth mentioning that he did not opt to get a Midas, which I like as well. Just gives you that much more punching power, both in terms of his fight potential, but especially in terms of his push potential. And that's something, again, that I talked about a bit during the draft, is Weaver really comes into his own right around this time of the game. When he's hitting okay, I mean, he's hitting for about 100 damage, nothing gigantic. He's actually trumped by the Lifestealer right now, even before the Armlet arrives. But just because he's so damn hard to track down, and even if you find him so damn hard to kill, his split push potential goes through the roof. Same thing with the Lone Druid. The Lone Druid has a lot of split push potential, or you can just slow push behind him. When you have a lineup like CyberPink happens to have, a lineup that's not afraid to take skirmish fights. Don't know that they really want a 5-on-5 right now, but we can already see Misa putting some pressure on to this Lifestealer. The farm rate's pretty good on both sides. The top Queen of Pain and the Lone Druid. And Secret's going to be spotted. He's going to drop the coil, actually. He's going to orb in, gets the silence off. He's looking for some help. The follow-up Fade Bolt, and the Rockets are going to come out. They do manage to track him down, but Queen of Pain's there to get a couple of kills. Queen of Pain now making a run for it, forces the Blink to the low ground. And the Rubik will be cleaned up. Fighting in March, not what you want to do. The Lifestealer making a run for the tower. He will not be pursued. In the meantime, Tinker heading for the side shop. He's got some wand charges if he needs them, and he's just going to try to TP away, and he will make it. No way for them to stun him out. The root from the bear just not on time. Again, we stayed tied up, though, 12-12. 16.5 minutes into this game, 24 kills on the board, and a lot of fun so far. The Armlet is complete on the Lifestealer, so he's going to be a lot more willing to fight now than he was just a moment ago. Lena's got her Arc Boots up, so a little bit of extra mana for herself and for the team. Queen of Pain is going to be going with the BKB first. Don't mind this one little bit, especially given the amount of magic damage that she's going to have to deal with in these fights. And she's going to be spotted here. Spins a screen, blinks to the high ground. No jaunt to follow up on the orb. But the magic damage coming out of Weaver's Shikuchi, coming out of Waning Rift from the Puck, and, of course, coming out of Rubik with Fade Bolt. I mean, that's just something that she is susceptible to burst. I mean, obviously, she's Queen of Pain. That's what the hero's built around, is avoiding burst damage situations, getting in doing her damage, playing more like a surgeon than more like a shotgun. And the BKB just allows her a little bit more leeway in that regard. Sitting at level 13 so far. Sitting on top. And this is really where you want your Queen of Pain as you approach 20 minutes. And Tinker. Queen of Pain and Tinker, the highest levels on the map. So that's going about as well as it possibly could for MUFC right now. I just heard, yeah, I thought I heard a coil go down. I did not. But in the meantime, MUFC has rotated down to bottom. They're asserting their dominance here in the jungle. And we may have another engagement. Smoke up from CyberPink as they move. They are just going to go ahead and respawn. It's just Lifestealer down here. Oh, he's coming way far forward. Not enough vision. Now, finally, I think he gets the idea. This might not be a good situation. He will be spotted by a ward there. Ward just beside it, bailed him out. Now another coil goes down. Lena in some trouble. Will be cleaned up with the Fade Bolt. Now the open wounds on Puck. Here comes the rest of MUFC. They're able to get the return kill. Both teams just going blow for blow. Haymaker for haymaker. Every time a team gets a kill, the opposition adds one as well. And Weaver has built a Hood of Defiance, so he's going to be quite tanky as well to deal with the magic damage output of MUFC. I talked a bit about CyberPink's magic potential, but MUFC's right there with him. Queen of Pain plus Tinker. A little bit of trading of paint out of CyberPink, but CyberPink and MUFC, but really nothing either of these two heroes can do to each other given their positioning, given it is a Weaver who can just erase your damage that quickly. Blink Dagger is going to be the choice pickup out of Tinker, so he's going to look to continue to play aggressive. Don't mind that at all, and especially like seeing it come out this early. Sometimes you'll see Weavers get a Blink Dagger up a little bit later, and it's not that it's bad to do that if you really need it then, but hang on, open wounds, never mind, was on a creep. Thought he casted that on poor Rubik. But not going to be the case. In the meantime, Laguna Blade enough to get a kill by Lina up at top. Weaver going to continue to pound him down. And finally going to be forced back. MUFC edging themselves out a small lead right now, taking a look at the gold. They are beginning to turn that into a bit of a bigger one. Hold on, here's the blink, and now the Infest Bomb that's going to catch Boss. Boss open wound, Sonic Wave spin as well. He's so tanky, but not tanky enough. Being able to pick off a Lone Druid at any stage of the game, but especially right now, when he is just beginning to get his inventory together. Get him off the map, make him lose some gold, slow him down. Very, very important, especially for the late game potential of MUFC. MUFC's late game potential is not bad. Tinker, honestly, depending on how full his inventory is, Tinker is just as scary as any carry in the world if he's farmed enough. He really is. Chain Hex, if he wants to add a Dagon, if he really wants to go that direction with damage, and his ability to just control the entire map and exponentially increase his rate of gold income is just so absurdly hard to deal with. So they have plenty of late game potential, but a Druid is still a Druid, and you do not want a late game ultra farm Druid to deal with. He's just so difficult to try to manage, and he makes it so hard to defend the base as well. Right now, both teams doing quite well in towers, only one tower down on each side. And we're 20 minutes in. That's fairly rare. We've seen a lot of kills already. 28 on the board in a 21-minute game. But these towers, I think, are going to begin to fall before long. Finally, one does drop. And now Coil's going to catch Tinker. Light Strike Array buys some time. Laguna Blade with the rockets enough to get a kill. Secret has to hang back. Can't afford to come out and fight. The burst damage out of MUFC showing itself once again. They get the tower, they get a kill or two, and now they're finally beginning to open themselves up a little bit of a lead. And Tinker trying to engage on the Weaver, trying to use rearm, but just look at his health melt. Ult from Weaver gets him back in fighting shape. He will pursue Tinker. The dust goes off, but it doesn't matter. A little bit over-aggressive there. Now the TP reaction comes out. That's going to be Boss. Boss with the Maelstrom in his inventory, 1,500 gold in the bank as well. We'll keep an eye on what item he wants to pick up next. The BKB is done on Queen of Pain, so her fighting potential through much, much higher now. She's going to be a lot more willing to stand in these fights. And what did he got? A blink, actually. And there's the BKB pop. Light Strike Array's off the mark. It's going to re-engage. Light Strike Array, or excuse me, Dragon Slave enough to clean it up after the scream. And Secret uses the silence, but just in passing. BKB is going to fade as MUFC forced back across their own river. And Tinker continues to just play ultra aggressive. Blinked in, blinked out, or yeah, moved in, blinked out, I should say. Using March just to harass as much as he can. Invis Rune is going to be picked up on the Queen of Pain. That's something she'll want to make use of sooner rather than later. And yeah, she's already popped it and used one bottle charge. Moving now down mid. She's going to spot Secret. And oh, if she spots Ares, there we go. There's the screen, there's the silence, and Puck will be able to make it away. Moved in the other direction, but will be engaged right by the rest of the team. So had to get the hell out of Dodge. Only had one option. Unfortunately, that option led him right into the heart of MUFC. Finally, it looks like we may have a lull in the action. Not that I'm complaining. Nothing wrong with 33 kills, and we're just a couple of minutes past 20. Skull Basher the choice on Lifestealer. So very typical stuff. And usually you'll see a Desolator come out before the Skull Basher will. If for no other reason than, you know, a Desolator adds to your damage. The armor reduction is huge, no matter who else you happen to have on your team. Not a lot of right-click potential on the team outside of the Lifestealer, but still the Deso just allows him to blow targets up that much more quickly, especially targets that are hard to lock down to begin with, like a Weaver. But it also gives you the potential to take Roshan much, much easier. Instead, though, he has picked up the Basher, and we'll watch what he wants to do. If he wants to go straight up for an Abyssal, which I wouldn't hate. Again, just because of how much easier it'll make it to try and isolate this Weaver. Speaking of, here comes Tinker. They're going to re-engage. And Weaver locked down and killed off. Lina there with the Laguna Blade to seal the deal. Took a lot of them, but they finally got the bug off the board. Lena's actually picked up a Blink Dagger as well. Now, I love this build, this approach to Lena. She has been adding a lot, fighting a lot, so her gold more than adequate to allow her to do this. But Lena and Lion both, Rubik to a lesser extent, I love seeing Blink Dagger pickups like this because it allows them to take on a bit of a different role. Secret will eat and open wounds, but no follow-up so far. But I love that approach just because, I mean, it's obvious what Lena can do. Lena can hang around the periphery of a fight. She can land a good stun. She can do some damage. Laguna Blade to blow up one target. That's great. But now with that Blink Dagger, she can actually serve as some peripheral initiation. She's able to hang even further back in fights, and if there's a target of opportunity, she can get right on them. She doesn't have to wade forward or float forward and risk being picked off or spotted out by, for example, a puck. So against this lineup in particular, I mean, a puck or a telekinesis out of Rubik could just ruin her day. So going with that high mobility Blink Dagger approach, just because she did manage to get the gold rolling, I think it's just really, really smart play out of MUFC. Looks like they want to try and catch the Queen of Pain out. They've got a few hanging around the back under cover of smoke. Now moving up to the north. Winner is going to be making his way down and dropping a ward in the meantime. So that's, yep, they are going to go ahead and try to catch him out now. Puck leading the charge. Secret's going to go ahead and pursue him all the way down into the river, but Winner should be able to make it away quite easily. The map has calmed down some. We'll see how long that's going to last. Can't imagine it's going to be long given the swagger with which most of these teams are playing. Winner has picked up a gem, so the counter warding can begin. And we're actually just going to see Misa hang on to his casual Hood of Defiance. He has added a Demon Edge. So most likely going up to MKB, if I had to guess. Picking up the MKB is just such a smart play on Weaver, especially as the game gets later. I mean, we're still pretty solidly in the mid-game phase at 26 minutes in. But that MKB just lets Weaver sit at a distance whenever you're pushing the Tier 3 and reliably and safely nuke down, well, I shouldn't say nuke down, whittle away at the Tier 3s. Just because, what are you going to do? You engage out to him, he Shikuchis, he has his ult to rely on, and coming out to engage in that position if you're being pushed back into behind your Tier 3 is risky to begin with. Usually you want to try and wait for the other team to push up and then take your shot there. In the meantime, the Aegis will be picked up, and they're going to hand that to the Queen of Pain. So, Queen of Pain, going to be looking to be the big playmaker, at least for now. There's the Infest in. And looking to drop another Lifestealer bomb. 3,000 gold in the inventory of FCFC. And we'll see what he wants to add now. Is he going to go with a right-click approach, or is he going to go with something, say like an Ags, just to give him that much more burst potential, extend that burst potential, I should say, on through the mid-game and towards the late-game phases. And, you know, given the way the game has progressed so far, I wouldn't hate an Ags pickup one bit. But, I mean, with this much gold banked up, usually, if it's going to be an Ags pickup, usually you're going to see him come out piece by piece. 3,400 gold, though. Could be on the way to a right-click kind of an item. We'll just have to wait and see. A little bit of pressure going to be applied now to the Tier 2 bottom. And not a whole lot of reaction. They may just try to trade here. Weaver, by himself up at top. He's got 2,000 gold in the bank. And making good progress towards MKB if that is indeed going to be his decision. He's not far away at all, just about 1,000 gold now. And Lifestealer's just been infested. Here we go. There's the infest out. Boss in some trouble. TP's come out immediately, but not soon enough for the Lone Druid. Weaver's there. And now another TP. But picking the Druid off once again, just such a good step in the right direction. And there's the Scythe of Ice, freshly completed, and the Demonic Purge locking him down. They managed to get Weaver as well. This is bad, bad news. Those two heroes make up for most of the punching power, and Dagon will be the choice on the Tinker. So he has kind of followed the outline I discussed about how I thought he was going to build it. But, oh, if they can get the Aegis here, that's a pretty good step. Now, no, Lifestealer's just going to go for it. Here comes Arlena and the Scream in. BKB is up. That's 3 down. Sonic Wave is there to clean up Puck. And this game quickly getting out of hand. And I actually made up, and there's our Tinker cleaning things up as well, showing off a Blink Dagger of his own. And yeah, this escalated quickly, to put it mildly. I mean, the gold was certainly heading in that direction to begin with, but just look at how quickly. That's over the span of 7 minutes it dropped that dramatically. MUFC asserting their dominance here in game number 1 of this best of 3. They managed to take a set of racks. And at this stage, I mean, CyberPink is not in an awful position. They do have a Weaver to rely on. They do have a Lone Druid to rely on so far as late game potential. But their ability to farm themselves into the late game is unbelievably hindered to lose a Rax before 30 minutes. Losing a Rax at this stage hurts so much. And they may just decide to go ahead and force another fight. Scythe of Ice has been the pickup on the Queen of Pain. And really, again, I mean, it's the same reason I thought the Tinker was going to pick it up. I actually thought Tinker had picked it up. But instead, it was the Queen who had just completed it and used it in that last fight. It was really that Scythe of Ice that made the difference in that last fight. But just having some method to lock down the Weaver in particular just gives them so much more kill potential and makes them so much more confident in taking these fights. The Lifestealer did pick up a Hyperstone. He's had that for quite some time. Really haven't had time to talk about it. We'll see if he wants to go for a Mjolnir of his own or if that's going to be on the way to an Assault Cuirass. 30 minutes in, and Queen of Pain with the Lifestealer on board. Happy to just go ahead and trade shot for shot with this tower. Still has the Aegis as well. And looks like CyberPink's not going to take the bait. And here we go, Infest Bomb once again. They're going to blow Rubik up. Hanging around just a little bit too long. Rubik did get the deny on that tower. Here comes Ares. Ares at no man's land. No idea what the plan was there. BKB will be used in the meantime. Battle Rage is at top. WW locked down. He's got to help around, though, and will be able to make it away safely. MUFC now doubling up their opponents, and the levels in gold beginning to show itself quite a bit. Top 3 farmers on the board in terms of pure net worth, all belonging to MUFC, and it looks like they're thinking Tier 3. Weaver still has not completed that MKB. Could have it right now if he wanted it. And they're just going to go ahead and try to force a fight. Don't blame him. Yeah, he's just, I mean, look how confidently they're playing. Rude is going to catch WW. Laguna Blade, Sonic Wave, follow-up Scream takes him down again. Now the Aegis will be popped just as it was about to fade to begin with. Tinker's now ready to fight. And here comes Queen back up. Rubik will be cleaned up. And Ares now in trouble as well. CyberPink believe they're running out of time. Believe they ran out of time quite some time ago, actually. 14-31. And I mentioned this earlier on in the broadcast that with the compositions both of these teams had and the way that both of these teams were playing, this is a game that could get way out of hand very quickly, one way or the other. And that tends to be the result, to be honest. When you have two teams that are just absolutely slugging it out. And, yeah, poor Secret. Just look at his health melt. Not even going to make it away. Open Wounds is there. One swipe and he's down. Queen of Pain back up. BKB. And the GG should be coming out momentarily. Really not a lot. Yep, there it is. The CyberPink can do. Very well played out of MUFC, but what I was saying is this really is, more times than not, the expected result. Whenever two teams have this kind of aggressive potential and they just play a slugfest early on. If you've got more kills than you do minutes up until about 20, 9 times out of 10 that game is just going to get away from one team or another. It's just so hard to maintain that kind of a pace. So hard to keep that up without making a mistake. And that goes for both teams. So, I mean, not to say the CyberPink played poorly here, but MUFC just on a different page entirely. 25,000 gold. Their advantage by the conclusion of this game. 30,000 experience. And game one, just about to be complete here. I want to thank all of you guys for being here. Hope you're enjoying the show. And, of course, I want to thank all of you for being here for my debut here at the at G1. My very first broadcast ever with the G1 League. And very, very, very proud to be working with G1 this time around. Much love to you no matter where you are. Want to give special love to my North American viewers, though. You guys are like me. It's 4 a.m. on the East Coast, and we are enjoying some Asian Dota here on One More Game TV2. MUFC rolls to a pretty convincing 25,000 gold. It's kind of convincing most of the time. 25,000 gold. And I didn't actually look at I did look at the experience. Can't remember it, but either way, solid win for MUFC. They lead 1-0 in this best of 3 here in Group A of Phase 2 of the G1 qualifiers. I am Ayesee, and this is the G1 League. Hope you guys will stick with us through the break. Game 2 of this best of 3 heading your way next.